we want to add or subtract these two fractions and identify any x values for which the expression is undefined. To do that, we do need to have a common denominator. So I want to take a look at my denominators here and determine what the common denominator would be. In order to do that, I do need to have those denominators in a factored form. So factoring the denominators, x plus 2 does not fit any of our factoring rules, but x squared minus 4 does. That's the difference of squares pattern. So that would factor as an x plus 2 times an x minus 2. Once you have the denominators factored, you can determine the lowest common denominator, which does happen to be the same as our least common multiple. I have a factor of x plus 2 in the bottom of this first fraction. I also have a factor of x plus 2 in the bottom of the other. When they occur in more than one place like that, you want to grab the one with the highest power, but both of those are x plus 2's raised to the first power. So x plus 2 to the first power will be our least common multiple. And then we do have another value, another factor here. It's an x minus 2, not listed in the first one, but it's listed here in the second one. And if you have something that's only listed once, that does need to be part of your least common multiple as well. So the lowest common denominator for these two fractions is going to be an x plus 2 times an x minus 2, which is the same thing as our least common multiple. So I'm going to rewrite these again, but I'm going to leave a little space behind the fractions. So the exact same thing, just with a little bit of space there. I have a space behind this fraction and a space behind this one now. I want these denominators both to be an x plus 2 times an x minus 2. This one has the x plus 2. What I am missing is I'm missing the x minus 2. So I'm going to have to multiply top and bottom of that first fraction by x minus 2. The second fraction, we want to make sure we have the common denominator, otherwise we'll have to multiply top and bottom by something there too, but that already does match what we want for the common denominator. So what we're going to have in our next step, now that we have a common denominator, is an x plus 2 times an x minus 2 in the bottom, and then what we have in the top, if we just kind of read this across from left to right, we have an x times an x minus 2 minus an 8. The bottom does not have any addition or subtraction outside the parentheses, so it is completely factored. We're just going to leave that alone. That's fine. But if you look at the top, we do have some subtraction outside the parentheses. So here we're going to have to get rid of all the parentheses and then refactor. So to get rid of these parentheses, I'm going to distribute the x into both of those terms. That would give me an x squared minus 2x up on the top, and then the minus 8 on the end. Then from there, we will need to factor the top and the bottom, but we've left the bottom in a factored form, so that's fine. But I do need to factor the top. Looking for something that adds to be negative 2, multiplies to be negative 8, and I can use the shortcut this time. So that would factor as an x minus 4 times an x plus 2. If you look outside the parentheses now, we don't have any addition or subtraction outside the parentheses, so now I can cancel things out. I do have something this time that will cancel. I have a matching x plus 2 on the top and the bottom, so those cancel out, leaving us with an x minus 4 in the top and an x minus 2 on the bottom. That does not simplify anymore, so that could be your final answer. But we do have a single quantity on the top, so really you don't need the parentheses there. Same thing in the bottom, so you could rewrite that without any parentheses at all. So there's our final answer after we add or subtract and simplify. But then we have a second part to the directions. We do need to identify any x values for which the expression is undefined. That means we need to figure out what would cause us to divide by 0 and then exclude those values. So you can look here in this step, or you can just come over here and look at your lowest common denominator. Whatever the lowest common denominator or least common multiple would be, whatever would make either of those sets of parentheses equal to 0, that's what we need to exclude. So here, x could not be a -2, and here, x could not be a +2. If you needed to show a little work with that, you could do x plus 2 equals 0, and then solve. Do x minus 2 equals 0, and then solve, and that would give you your two values. So the two values that x cannot be equal to are a positive and a -2. So x cannot equal 2 or -2. You could write it that way. You could use that plus or minus notation. You have a few options there, but you need to list those values out.